And now I'm
Hello.
sideways.
And now Melissa's sideways. It was all perfect. We had it all set up right. And then Melissa's camera decided to go, nah, screw you guys today.
This is great.
Um,
Can you flip it?
oh, I might actually be able to rotate. Um, maybe customize. No, I cannot. I
I don't know
cannot
how to
do.
do it. Let's see.
You're Melissa. You're doing great. I love it.
It's a crazy, crazy day.
It's
Sideways
a great
assistant
start.
for you.
So, good morning,
In
everybody.
the
Welcome
settings.
to Banner and Backbone. This is Centering the American Discussion, Part 3 or Episode 3. I am Nick Perro with my good friend and co host and colleague here at Banner and Backbone, Melissa Corrigan. We are bringing on two really great folks again. Sherrod Swaney, who is the one of the directors at Centered America. He is a returning um, guest and contributor for this show, and basically a co-host at this time for this show, um, which I'm so happy about because I've really gotten to know you and Gavin a lot better over the last couple weeks, and gosh, it's been good to do.
Really good.
And there's a lot to cover in all of this, and so much going on in the world, and you guys are helping recenter the discussion. And I want you to introduce yourself here in a second, but I want to introduce our other guest first, just so that everyone knows who he is. And what's going on today is we're bringing on our good friend and colleague in the publication worlds and writing worlds and thought world is Evan Fields. He is an Army vet, contributor to Lincoln Square. I don't want to butcher the name of your own publication that you have.
It's news
And
from underground.
News from Underground. Thank you, Evan. Um, and just a generally smart guy on the public policy world and engagement on the local level, and how important civics really is in your life, in everyday life. And so, before shared before you reintroduce yourself for anyone, I want to let our guest today really introduce himself, and then we'll get back into it and carry forward. So, Evan, do you mind saying hi to everyone and introducing yourself to uh, the audience today?
Yeah, of course. I appreciate you, Nick. My name's Evan Fields. I am a contributing writer for Lincoln Square. Like Nick said, I also run the News from Underground publication on Substack. A lot of what I cover is, civics based, staying involved in government, veterans issues, issues with getting young men more involved, things like that. I have master's degree in public administration from the University of Colorado at Colorado Springs, and I'm just glad to be here with you guys in this fight for democracy and fight for the people. I appreciate you guys.
Well, I really appreciate you being with us for this discussion, especially today. Shara, do you want to reintroduce yourself and Centered America before we get into back into our discussion today, which I'll introduce the topic is overall is we're talking about mutual aid and civil suits and lawsuits and how we can actually support each other and stop being the ones who say, hey, someone should file this, and start being the ones who say, hey, we're going to file this. And you guys in the audience and everyone in our community can help be part of that. Um, so, Cher, do you mind introducing yourself?
Of
And then we can
course.
get right into the discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Nick, for having me on again. My name is Sherrod Swaney. I'm the director of Centered America. Centered America is a 501c4 organization tethered to resisting authoritarianism and defending democracy. We are trying to center the playing field and make sure that we can unite disillusioned Republicans and Democrats to really center the discussion and get some grassroots organizing methods in to how we fund civic life.
Awesome. Thank you. And so today, really, the discussion last week we left off on was we were talking about mutual aid and how we can support each other because the idea of um, illegal orders and how people are going to have to respond to those orders and react and um, having people's back during this time is going to be hyper important. And we wanted to make sure that there's a voice for those folks and that they know um, that if they are to get an illegal order, active duty service members from general down to lowest private, that we have their back. And that we, as the American people, say, no, you're going to probably lose pay. Your family is going to get impacted, but we are here to support you and we are here to get your back. Um, but also then extending that to just everyone, specifically federal workers right now, who may not get their by law required furlough pay because Donald Trump is a cheap fucking asshole who refuses to fucking pay anybody for labor or their efforts, no matter what. He's going to sue to try and get the least amount he has to pay and the most he can get back because he's greedy as shit. And so I want to start there, if y'all don't mind, as a great sort of starting point on how do we support each other and what types of opportunities are there from Senator America across to Lincoln Square and Banner and Backbone style companies where we're more the media focus and how we can help get that message out, but also raise funds for those types of programs and sustain them.
Perfect. So I've taken some notes from the last conversation, and I love that we're talking about mutual aid funds because it's something that us at Center in America, being a 501c4 organization, can really do. And I've looked up kind of the process on how we can make it work. And the first thing we really need to focus on is drafting a fund policy and getting that purpose and eligibility criteria down, covering all of that to make sure that we have who gets aid, when, how much. We need an application and approval process. Because we're a 501c4 organization, and also you, Banner and Backbone, being an LLC, since you have an EIN, you can create a separate bank account for a mutual aid fund as well. So we need, just solid record keeping. Funding sources, we could create a separate Substack channel, separate Substack publication, where those paid subscriptions fund our mutual aid fund. We can also have a GoFundMe or different donation processes. Senator America uses DonorBox to get donations, and that works. And then we have to just kind of be able to disperse that money and transparently, right? Publish monthly or quarterly reports and showing the total number of donations, how many people we helped and why and how much they got, just to say legally like bound. And yeah, so all of that's just how we can start it, how we can do it. There needs to be a committee as well for a mutual aid fund, so we need to make at least three members on that committee for the mutual aid fund as well. So those are the notes that I have, and then I guess we can have a conversation on what that would look like and how we can really use it in a good way.
Yeah, I think those are great notes. Melissa, I saw you taking some notes during that. And Evan, I think you probably have some good stuff to say around those types of things too. Melissa, do you want to jump in real quick? And then we'll open the conversation up from there.
Yeah, all of that sounds absolutely spot on. I worked with fundraising and consulted with fundraising for many years, and all of that is spot on. Transparency, transparency. You want the more transparency you have, the better. Something I wanted to add in that's going to make this makes this a little more urgent Nick and I had this discussion yesterday. I did some digging because there's a post going around Substack alleging that ICE is hiring out of prisons potentially. And I wanted to do some digging and find evidence of that. And unfortunately, I could not find any evidence of that.
Mhm.
But what I did find in the process was evidence that our active duty military may currently be on the streets in ICE uniforms. And they're doing that through a skill bridge program. So skill bridge is a transitional program when you're leaving active duty military. So the last 180 days of your service, you can go work, quote unquote, intern with other federal agencies or even civilian agencies. Some people use it to go into trades, etc. But back in May, at the end of May, SecDev PD put out a memorandum that orders all branches of the military to push skill bridge applicants into DHS. So this is highly unusual. Two statements were released by officials at the Pentagon shortly after this statement was made. Both of those statements use words like unprecedented, highly unusual, historic. So this is, I believe that was a little bit of a call from inside the house, a little bit of a cry for help with those statements, indicating that this is highly unusual. And to me, this looks like a very neat loophole for the Posse Comitatus Act. If the president cannot deploy troops on the ground, he can still get active duty military members on the ground with ICE through this loophole. So the reason to tie this back to the mutual funds, you're talking about guys that are, if they're on their way out of the military, they're between 21 and 25 years old if they just serve their first 4 years. These are guys that aren't super educated in terms of legalities and constitutional law. So now you have young men who may potentially be working inside DHS while active duty military. These guys need to know what their constitutional rights and bounds are in that position, and they need to be empowered if they do discover they are in a position where what they personally are doing is unconstitutional. They have unknowingly followed an unlawful order, which this may come out to be. Then they need to be financially empowered to step back and say, no, I don't want to do this. This is an unlawful order. And this is where these mutual aid funds come in. We're, of course, talking about every one of the active duty guys, National Guard or otherwise, that are currently being deployed inside the United States. We want to protect all of them. But finding out about this little loophole through this little program means that there are potentially some very young men and women out there in a very constitutionally compromised position. So they need mutual funds like this so that they can know, hey, if I step back and say, I'm not sure this is constitutional. I'm not sure I want to continue doing this. They can keep paying their bills at home. They can keep buying their kids food. They can keep paying their rent at home, and their families don't have to financially suffer if they stand up and say, I need to know if this is a lawful order.
Yeah, I agree. I think where you run into an issue, and this is something that I've been scared about. Me and Gavin were talking, and by the way, Melissa, I'm sorry that Gavin can't come on. He wasn't unfortunately able to come on the show today, but we were talking about how the application process would work for something like that. When you would have to deny someone and why. What if we don't have enough funding? How much funding does that person receive? And if we miss a payment because we don't have that funding or are being sued ourselves, what does that look like? Because that lives are on the line. People's
Right.
rent are on the line. And so that's where the application process and the approval process gets difficult, because who do we, let into the mutual aid fund? How many people? And that's where it gets scary, because if we're creating this mutual aid fund, we want to make sure that people who need access have access, that we have enough funding to fund their lives. And if we don't, it's hard. It's hard to
Right.
like be able to kind of live with this idea of now it's on us and our responsibility to fund these people. Um, and as much as I want to and I want to have that responsibility, we also have to make sure we define that application process so that it does fund as many people as possible,
Right.
and treats as many people as possible.
Yeah, and I think that that's a big point that you brought up is that we are going to have to fund this, and it's going to have to come from the people, especially not only with the government shutdown happening and everything and funding drying up that way, but with starting an organization or a plan like that, it usually relies on government money in the first place to get started up through grants and things like that. And with a hostile government that we're dealing with, that's not going to happen. So it is on the people and it's on us to do it. And it's going to take a grassroots effort to be able to make this happen and things like that. And I think that's another frustrating aspect is you guys mentioning um, soldiers disobeying direct or illegal orders and needing mutual aid when it comes to that and everything. And it just goes back to the hostile government thing because the military has one of the biggest mutual aid infrastructures in place. There's so many different organizations in the military that can help people and that would be in place to help these soldiers, but they're going to be denied those resources. So it's on us to be able to pull together and start organizations like Sharad's talking about to where we can disperse money like that and help people out and keep them on their feet when they're joining this fight with us when it eventually comes to that.
And I don't think it's unfeasible, right? I think that we
Mm-hmm.
can do it with proper organizing. And I've been taking some courses on relational organizing, which is a grassroots organizing method that basically strengthens people's personal inner networks. Instead of reaching out to people that you don't know, you're reaching out to the networks that you do have, creating a template of the people around you in order to strengthen your network. But it also is proven to raise voter turnout during campaigns. It's proven to boost points in races. So it's also more cost effective. So if we're doing something like a mutual aid fund, we need to create personal network templates to really get other people involved, friends, neighbors, family members, um, to actually help out and assist. It's essentially the same as a food drive, right? Where you're kind of taking all of this food and having your own networks kind of bring it in. And I think that that's the most feasible option for us is using relational organizing to help this mutual aid fund work.
Yeah, and I'm responding to, while all of this is going on too, is responding to some of the stuff going on, at least in my chat. And I'm gonna scroll over for all the other chats. So if you see Banner and Backbone, that's me saying hi to everyone and trying to do a little bit of moderation in the background too. So please ask questions, go ahead. Um, is we had a good question around like funding sources overall. And this comes from someone who hangs out in our chats quite often, Lefty Prof, very good, um, very common person in our community, has a great question is what about soliciting Mark Cuban? And I'm going to start off by saying I don't like billionaires. And I think billionaires make their money unethically because there's no way to make $1 billion without unethically doing something. You are profiting off the labors of other people and taking their wealth to get billions of dollars, because you are hoarding. If he would be willing and open to being a publicly known contributor that is not part of running the organization in
Right.
any way and does not have any say in the direction of what we do with the money, and it is just based on our direction, and he's willing to provide financial support as a piece of this, sure. I just don't want him to have any, or any billionaire to have any true direct say in what we're doing. Like, if Taylor Swift wanted to donate, great. I'd put her on as a donating member. Thank you for your contributions, but you have no say in what we're doing here. Like, just
Well, I
saying.
think we're gonna see like right now there is a group in Hollywood that's led by Jane Fonda that's forming this coalition. And I have very low expectations for that. I think they're gonna make some videos and some movies and some feel good projects, and they're all gonna pat themselves on the back that they spoke out when they themselves hold the bulk of what we need, which is money. We don't need your videos. We don't need you to make a song about it. We need your money. We need your money. We need you to contribute to various mutual aid funds, because the wealth disparity is what's causing a lot of the issues in our country. And if you hold the amount of wealth where you yourself could contribute heavily to a mutual aid fund that helps women or helps military members or helps immigrants, and you go and make a feel good video, I just have no patience for that at all. So I'm hoping that they will get the clue that the way that they can be the most impactful is through monetary gifts. I don't hold out a great deal of hope that celebrities are going to want to join in projects where the most that's demanded of them is money.
I agree. However, for the Mark Cuban thing, it's kind of funny that that person asked the question because um, we've told you about this, but we went to the principal's first summit last summit in February, and Mark Cuban actually spoke, and he talked about a company he was starting called Cost Plus Drugs,
Mhm.
where he was trying to reduce
Mhm.
the cost of drugs. And Mark Cuban kind of plays both sides, but he did do a lot of campaigning for Kamala Harris's campaign. Um, and so I think it's worth it to reach out to individuals that have a lot of money in order to fund. However, like Nick was saying, having a spot on the board or the direction of the mutual aid isn't the people. You know, it's not a direct representation of the people. It has to be bottom up. It can't be top down. And if we're having billionaires sit on a board, it doesn't really work.
Right.
Because you know it's for their benefit and it's for gaining more money rather than actually helping the people. So, but you know, I can, because I have ties to Principles First. There are methods to reaching out to people like Mark Cuban. So
Yeah, I think that your name can bring notoriety to the cause and your money can bring resources to help us in the fight, but that money is not going to dictate how we carry these things out and how we enact certain things and who we're funding and things like that. And I think the frustrating thing with celebrities is they think they're closer to the billionaires than they are to us, and it's so frustrating just seeing them like just put your money where your mouth is one time. Find one cause that's near to you and support a mutual aid that's going to help those people. You know what I mean? You see celebrities like Mark Ruffalo's a guy that does a lot of work, and I think that he uses his voice a lot. And but somebody like Mark Cuban, I worry about that because they didn't get to that position without having control over everything. And with that money, I think comes a need for control. So the money worries me too, as much as the people being tied to it, just because I don't necessarily trust the money from billionaires. But I think that there is a way to, utilize celebrity voices and things like that and have them be a part of the fight without overtaking it and with it still being about the people. Um, what was I going to say? Yeah, the celebrity thing worries me because, we've seen historically the Democratic Party has leaned on celebrity endorsements and things like that. And you don't want like a new coalition or a new movement like this to be wrapped up in the same old politics that they were running with back during the Obama campaigns.
Yeah,
yeah,
I think they've become out of touch in a lot of ways, and it shows in the Democratic like party establishment, the corporate establishment, the corporate side of the Democratic Party. really doesn't have our best interests in mind. And we're seeing that because they're weak and feckless and they want to find the middle point of everything where there's no middle point in, because they haven't realized uh, you cannot work with fascists, and you cannot like keep giving to somebody who doesn't have a red line, and that is willing to cross anything. Um, and I think as we get closer and closer to people who are on the verge or think they're on the verge of becoming billionaires or are billionaires or people in that profit class, from what I've seen and what I've put together, at least just from anecdotal evidence through the work that Ellie Leonard does, that we've all, and like Zev Shalev do, where they're finding all this money and it's all billionaires that are engaged in really horrific acts and really amoral things. And it's something about money changes you. And I'm not saying Mark Cuban is involved in any of that. I will be very clear. I do not think Mark Cuban is involved in any of that. That said, on top of that, something changes when you become a billionaire and you lose touch, or if you're close to being a billionaire, you lose touch with anything that's
Yeah,
important outside of money. Um,
It's almost like a personality change when you get to that point. Like
right.
yeah.
there's like the
So,
predatory, but there's also like the defensiveness of it too.
yeah. So we've got to, I think we're really right on that, is we've got to be really careful about tying an image of what we would want to do for mutual aid to a celebrity in any way. I think it would be cool if they'd be willing to get past their own ego and just do the right thing and do the thing that we need, which is redistribute the wealth. Because Mark Cuban, if he wanted to really change the world, could redistribute his wealth and just be like, hey, I am the first used to be billionaire because I donated everything away. Like, I can claim that. Like Taylor Swift gets to actually claim that because she's statistically a billionaire and then gave away a whole bunch of money. So she could easily claim that. But at the same time, she's still raking in shitloads of money, more than she could ever need or use in her lifetime. And right now, like literally right now in history, is the time when you actually use that money. Um,
And I wrote
what do you
about
guys think
this
about
the other
endowments
day.
in schools too, and how those could be used? Sorry, before we go on to
Oh,
there,
go ahead.
but you wrote about this the other day.
Yeah, I was just talking about how one message from Taylor Swift could shut down news networks and things like that, and shut down the news and change completely the conversation and things like that. And she just won't do it, but she'll sit there and release like 15 variants of the latest album and things. And I was just going to say how ridiculous it is that they have to know that they could make that change and that they could affect that type of change. You can't get to that position and have that sort of money without having the self-awareness that like, hey, I could use this for good, you know. But yeah, that's all I was going to say. What were you saying, Nick?
yeah, is like, sorry, I got off track there too. My mind disappears.
It's a
Uh,
veteran thing.
Yeah, it's a fibro thing too. Is I just fucking everything disappears on me. But I think where I was going with all of this was around the idea of like, they, the folks that who, and I think maybe where I'm responding to someone in Melissa's chat at the moment who was saying that a like a Taylor Swift huge venue fundraiser for a candidate would be a lot more impactful than dropping a few million. Their best contribution is passing on credibility to candidates, bringing public to venues where their candidates talk. I don't even think that's it anymore. I think being associated with celebrities so closely loses you credibility because they are so out of touch, is the problem. I think that's what we're talking about here, is like part of this conversation about mutual aid is funding sources are really important, and how you get your funding, but also how you market how you received your funding is equally as important, because people want to understand where you get your money from, who's giving you money. And especially nowadays, like, I'm not going to accept money from Elon Musk or Peter Thiel or someone in that side of the world, like I'm hesitant to would be hesitant to ask for money, say from Mark Cuban, because he's so heavily in the tech community and they have some really shitty things that they're planning. Like, and I'm more concerned that Mark Cuban is going to run for president as part of the America Party and come out of nowhere and fucking lead us into a uh, techno-fascist state right after we get out of regular fascism. Like they're just going to up it without even really thinking about it.
And I think a lot of that money, like when you're given a huge amount of money from someone that's a celebrity like Mark Cuban, it comes with a weight to it. It comes with you have to do something in order to receive this money. And if you do receive this money, there's a baggage. And so I think honestly, the best thing that we can do is organizing it in a relational way where you're taking social pressure, which isn't a negative thing. It's when you see your interpersonal networks, contributing to a mutual aid fund, you are more likely to do it, right?
Mhm.
It's a difference between, not door-to-door knocking, where, a lot of people aren't really changed by a door-to-door knocking. That's not what I'm not saying that it's a bad thing for organizing. But when someone knocks on your door and they're trying to sell bug spray, right? How often are you to take them up on that offer? It's there's a minimal amount of times that you take them up on that offer. Whereas when you are talking to a family member about this issue and saying, hey, let's both contribute, you're more likely to actually get an impact and actually raise funds for a mutual aid network.
And I also think we should use that relational connection in the cities that are already being occupied, reaching out to established nonprofits, especially grassroots community level ones, in those cities and saying, hey, we want to provide these military members sort of an out, a financial out. We want to be able to have a mutual fund so they can stand up and say, no, I'm not doing this. They need financial support to be able to do that. Everybody wants them to do it. Everybody wants the National Guard to stand up, for ICE to stand up, and for individuals in that system to just simply lay down their gun and be like, I'm walking away from this. My conscience is not going to allow me to continue doing this. And that's wonderful. That makes for great movies and TV. But in reality, what would happen to that individual, especially if it was just one or two? The wrath of the military would come down upon them. They absolutely would be thrown in the brig while they were being investigated. Their pay would be ended immediately. And that would obviously impact their family and whoever's depending on them for that paycheck. So we reaching out to those grassroots organizations and saying, hey, if we want to start seeing that, if we want to start seeing substantial resistance within the military to what is quite clearly becoming closer and closer, if not crossing the line of an unlawful order, we need money to fund that. So reaching out to those communities and the established organizations in them and saying, what do you suggest? Who do you suggest that we go to for funding? Who do you go to for funding? Because I'm willing to bet those grassroots organizations that are on the ground in Portland, in Chicago, in LA will be very happy to tell us who they work with, particularly in LA. There's a lot of money there. Who they work with, who's quietly giving them money that they could connect us with. There have been more and more sort of sightings of celebrities in hoodies and celebrities that are out at these protests. Like, so we know what side they're on. We know they don't like what's going on. They're being very careful with their public presence around it, but I'm sure they're probably giving money quietly to grassroots organizations that are resisting. So yeah, that's how we need to be using the relational, is looking at these cities that are already occupied and ones he's threatening to occupy. Go to those grassroots organizations, find out who they are, go to them and start having those conversations.
And I think also they are targeting nonprofits, they are targeting organizations, so we need to stay under the radar.
Right.
So reaching out to local grassroots organizations that are also kind of big as well. So like Indivisible Kansas City, Indivisible St. Louis, that are right by me. I can reach out to them as well, which is a great idea. Thank you, Melissa. I'm actually gonna probably do that right after this live. So I think it'd be impactful to reach out to organizations like that, and I'll also reach out to Principles First because they have some good connections.
And Veterans for Peace, they have a chapter
Yeah.
in like every state. That's one
Yeah.
that would definitely, I think, be interested in partnering on this.
Got it.
And I
Yeah,
wonder
and
if
I think you guys
Indivisible
make.
would be.
Go ahead, Nick.
Sorry, I wonder if Indivisible would be interested in at least helping connect folks, because Melissa, you were talking about the fact that they actually have a informationals on how to set up mutual aids.
Right.
And I think that's incredible because they're local grassroots organizations and they're not really they're a decentralized network of local groups. And I think that's fantastic. Sorry, Evan, I cut in on you there.
No, you're okay. I was gonna say, yeah, I think that going at the city by city level and finding sort of these mutual aid networks and bolstering those, especially the cities that, we saw the map of what was it? I think it was Russell Vote that released it, the map of the blue states that they're not going to fund during the shutdown or that they're withholding money from. So we know that there's going to be more cities that they're going into. And I think that that's one of the big things is we need those cities and we need people in those cities to recognize that that's going to happen and preemptively kind of bolster these organizations and make sure that people know about them. I was looking up last night the Portland Mutual Aid Network. There wasn't a lot of like mutual aid sites that I could find in Portland, but that was one that I wanted to bring up, that if there's anybody watching in Portland and they're out at the protests and stuff right now, the Portland Mutual Aid Network, they're one that's local and everything that people can kind of latch on to right now. But yeah, it's important that like even us individually, like if we find a place locally that we can, donate $10 to, and then we can tell a friend about that, and that sort of helps start the movement of making sure that these places are taken care of and everything, and that people actually know about them. But yeah, I worry about the next city and the next city and the next city. I just what do you guys think about like the class action lawsuit, like preemptively kind of filing those and things like that? I was just curious what your guys' thoughts on that was.
Oh, Melissa, sorry, I
Oh
have no
no.
idea what just happened to you.
Why?
I turned
It's
something on and it
sideways again.
like I tried to put a QR code out for the Portland Mutual Aid network right
Oh,
there
there it
on top
is.
of my corner.
Yeah, I see it.
So there is a QR code here up on the screen now in the top um, corner for everyone is the Portland Mutual Aid. So we are not in connection with them in any way at this point. Melissa will be back with us here. But please feel free to donate and provide mutual like funds and support with groups like that. I think one of the important things we're going to need to discuss in all of this too is not forgetting mutual aid for cities in red states. And because they're going to get hit really, really hard because the governors are
Mm,
welcoming the National Guards in. Like the governors are inviting National Guard in to beat up on their own citizens and cities. And I know like the most obvious examples are always going to be like the big cities in blue states like Portland, LA, Chicago, New York, because Trump wants to have the show of it to say that he can cow the biggest cities in America and he can take over those cities. But he's going to take over the cities that a lot of the cities that we actually really need in elections and really need support from and really need the people in. And they're also the communities that always get forgotten because it tends to be the Black and Hispanic and poorer communities that are hit in these incidents. And in the South, the history of racism that is very, very prevalent hasn't really gone away. And oppression hasn't really gone away. So could we talk about like, do you guys know about like other groups and things like that that we can find locally for more red state involvement too? Um,
Yeah, I mean, I live in a red state, and I have like there's only two blue cities, and one is now gerrymandered, so we only have one blue like district, St. Louis. Blue Missouri, right? Jess Piper follows us on all of our platforms. We can easily connect with her. Indivisible also follows us, Kansas City and St. Louis branch. So for Missouri specifically, I think Indivisible would be a good uh, organization to reach out on. Same thing with other red states. I think there's probably Indivisibles in other red states as well. So I think that those are probably good organizations to reach out to.
yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna
I-
say indivisible. I think that's an overarching one that everybody can kind of get behind and support and help out with.
And I also think that with relational organizing, having those value-based conversations where you're talking to individuals about their values and kind of cementing in how it relates to them is more effective at creating this mutual aid network that has a base of people. If you're all sharing funds and food and resources kind of under the radar, that is an organizing method. Those people are more likely to join those protests, are more likely to contribute in the future when they do have the funds to contribute or the food to contribute. And so it's being passed around. It's not really that it's going in and then dissipating. These funds and resources are being passed from person to person, and I think that is one of the biggest funding proposals and policies that we need on this mutual aid network, is that it's not just giving the money and then it goes away. It's give money, and then when you have some, you give it to the next person, and we pass it along and pass it on.
Yeah, and so before we go any further, I want to wrap up this part of the discussion and switch into the second half. Oh no, we lost Melissa again. That's all right. So yeah, Melissa just said she's having some tech issues, so she's going to drop. We are going to keep Melissa your channel open for the remainder of the show. So y'all who are hanging out on Melissa's channel, do not worry. We're not going to shut her down. We're not unstable like our democracy. We're stable here. We're going to hang out.
Can I
Um,
just say one more thing about mutual
yeah,
aid real quick, Nick?
yeah.
I think given my kind of background with my thesis and everything that I did on local meetings and municipal meetings and things like that, I think if anybody watching wants to start like a mutual aid thing like that, city council meetings might be a place where they could start that. Like if you just talk to, there's going to be a collective group of people there from all across the political spectrum, and you're going to be able to convince people directly to help and support their own community. So if you want to go and talk to those people, a local municipal meeting, a city hall, a town hall, those might be a place where you can have the floor for a couple minutes and you can bring it up and you can convince people, and you're going to drag in people from both sides of the aisle. And I think that if we start that at a community level, if I started one in my town, it spreads to the next town, and then we're kind of building a network that way. So I think that city council meetings can be an effective way for us to get that sort of message out about mutual aid.
Another good idea too is I know we've got our coming up. Thank you, Lefty Prof, for the suggestion in my chat. And little LT is Future Farmers of America. The FFA group is a suggestion for groups that are fairly non-political. They just teach future farmers, and I love the FFA stuff. But also, the suggestion was there's always a table set up at every protest for things, and I don't know if that's specifically which organization specifically, but I know Sherrod, you guys put in a lot of information around protests and stuff like that at Centered America. Are there ways that we say, if I go to a protest in Arkansas, which I'm going to go to for No Kings,
Yeah, that's on the
is one of the
18th, right?
Yep, on the 18th is, are there ways that we could support with like a table for Centered America or a table for a specific mutual aid that may, if we're able to get something set up by that point, um, where we could actually like put flyers out and tell people about it in a big setting. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so that's actually something that we've been working on very heavily. Gavin is our main, creative when it comes to creating flyers. We showed it on a live with Lawrence like 2 lives ago, 2 episodes ago. And we have flyers, we have readily available resources, and so yeah, we actually on our website we have just kind of a form you can fill out to partner or to create a table, and it doesn't even have to be in the Centered America name. You can just make it for yourself and distribute resources. You can reach out to us and we can actually try and help fund any resources that you're giving out. Water, snacks, we did that for a protest where we also help people create signs, which is a really good way to foster community. Is like if you're helping them create signs, you're able to talk to them while they're writing and making their signs. You're giving them water, you're giving them snacks. You're able to create and foster a community of people and create more resources. And I think that for Centered America or for Banner and Backbone, there is it's a protest, right? We have a legal right to do it. Setting up tables at a protest is legally sound. So I feel like everyone should. If you're not like, of course, you need to join in on the protest, but also you can protest in a different way, which is creating community and setting up a table.
That's awesome. I think then I'm gonna keep in touch with you about that in as we're getting in the weeds of this over the next week, week and a half. Um, is because I think getting information out like that, finding ways that people can support very openly and easily without having to do a lot of extra fanfare for it, and that's specifically local. One adds legitimacy to ourselves is because we care about our communities and we're working for our communities and doing stuff, but it also gives people a little bit more hope that there's more than just them doing it and that they're not alone, because that's something that I always hear at protests is, oh man, I'm so glad. And I even say this, I'm so glad I came because I'm not alone. I'm not
Yeah.
alone. I'm not this blue dot in a red state. There's so many more of us than we think. So part of that is actually, yeah, Sherrod, if you would be open to it, is next week sometime I'd love to do a just a run through of your like flyer and how to prepare for
Oh yeah.
protests and how to safely protest, especially with how things are escalating, and just give a big informational something like this. We put it up on the screen and just basically do a read through of what you can prepare for, how you can keep yourself safe, what you can expect or engage with, how you can de-escalate. So if you're open to it, I'd love to schedule something probably late next week so people can get some really good information, or even
Perfect.
early next week, and do some informational on helping folks prepare for the protests. Um,
Also, Gavin, since he's not here, he was going to talk about how he is creating shirts, protest shirts, with the Centered America logo, where people can wear it and be in unison, make community. We're giving them out for free, and during protests. So that's another thing we're doing to keep community as well.
And that's going to be such important information, the de-escalation tactics and things like that,
Hmm.
because we know what the goal is. We know the goal is martial law and the Insurrection Act and what he's trying to do, and he's trying to provoke people. And yeah, I think that just getting information out and things like that even provides a sort of community that people are looking for. And like Nick said, there's you go to a protest and you're like, oh shit, everybody around here is a good person and everybody is here for the same common cause and things like that. So yeah, I think getting that information out about how to keep people safe and bring American flags to the protests. Bring American flags if you can. That's the last thing that they want. That's a de-escalation tactic in itself, because that's the last thing those guys want, is to be on the headlines and front page of the newspapers arresting people holding American flags or body slamming American citizens holding the flag and things like that. So yeah, that information is going to be a really important part of mutual aid, and setting up those kind of booths and getting that information out to people that's really going to be a good help, especially with the expected turnout for the No Kings protest coming up.
Yeah, and if you don't have a platform on social media, but you have ideas, there's a whole platform at a protest. There's so many people that you're gonna come across that you can spread your ideas that way, right? If you don't have a social media that has a lot of followers, spread it to the thousands of people that are going to be at your protest, right? Like that's
Hmm.
the best way to actually spread ideas. And then you're not doing it online where people are behind a screen. You're actually talking to them. You're actually meeting them face to face and spreading those ideas, which it makes the world go around
Yeah,
a lot
absolutely.
better than social media.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I'm actually glad we spent more time on the mutual aid today than any of the other stuff. I would like to have Evan, you come back and join us for another one of these shared. Um, I think we are settling into a good rhythm here on a weekly schedule for this with you and
Yeah.
Gavin. Um, and Evan, I'd love to have your continued opinion into what we're talking about on this. So open invite for you to come back whenever you'd like to keep these discussions going. Next week, I want to get into the civil suits and the class action lawsuits, and how we can use our citizen power to actually do the things that we keep saying need to happen, because if Congress or our elected officials aren't going to do it, um, and when they do it, they never give us the money back for it, is like, we need to put pressure on companies like Fox News, or for having multiple people on air advocating for murder and inciting violence and things that led to direct violence. Like, there should be financial repercussions and like legal repercussions for those, because we uphold the laws. And citizens are the one, not the government. We don't have to listen to the government saying, you can't
Mhm.
uphold the Hatch Act, or you can't uphold this. Well, fuck that. Yes, we can. Like, it's our power to do those things. The Hatch Act is powerful if we uphold the law. Like, if we were to stop it, or inciting violence through speech is illegal. Like, that is incitement. You can be civilly and criminally prosecuted for it. I think we need to send a message on that, and I'd love to have your guys' thoughts on how we can do that and use our platforms, or work with lawyers or folks who, I don't have access to the same legal minds that some of you guys might, on either through Centered America or even with connections at Lincoln Square, is you guys know bigger minds than I do. But also, how do we use those minds together and not do the thing that MAGA does, where they sue over everything and it's meaningless? But we sue because we can sue over so much that is meaningful. So I'd love to have that discussion with you guys.
Yeah, no, I think that is a big discussion that we need to have. Gavin is in fact coming to St. Louis, and we're actually going to work on getting insurance to cover us in case of any legal filings that happen, court cases, anyone that sues, because we want to make sure that people have liability, but we also make sure that we're protected. The directors are protected. So that's what we're working on next, come like November, late October. And I think that there's a way where we can get all of us covered under that protection, to make sure that we have insurance in case of something that happens. So I'm gonna look into that as well, and then we can talk about that next time.
Okay, awesome.
I've always been a big proponent of, we need a new form of the fairness doctrine that Reagan got rid of. We need truth in news and accountability in news and information and things like that. And I like, it seemed like kind of what you were getting at, Nick, is sort of like a civilly enforced fairness doctrine, like through civil action and things like that, where the people finally stand up and say, to an organization like Fox News, kind of like, I forget the exact name of the voting company that sued them, but like, if the people were to do that civilly and say, you know what, fuck that, you're ruining our country through misinformation and lies that you're telling people, and we have a right to the truth and things like that. I think that enforcing those sort of things civilly, that could be a really effective tool. So yeah, that's a conversation I'd definitely be excited about.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm glad you both were able to come on. Evan, I'm really glad you made it with us, and I look forward to having some more discussions with you. Before we go, I'm going to put up, we're just at the top of the hour. I'm going to put up QR codes here real quick on the screen. This may cover your face for a second, Evan, so just
No
hold on.
worries.
I'm hoping this works on the side. It doesn't always. All right, Evan, do you mind letting everyone know? I want to give you the chance to let everyone know where they can find you, how they can support your work, what you do, and we'll finish off with then Sheridan and myself, and we'll close out the morning. So, Evan, take it away. How can everyone support you today?
Yeah, absolutely. You guys can find my stuff right there at the QR code for News from Underground. But I think the main thing that I want to say is go out and support Lincoln Square. I got the sweatshirt on. There's a bunch of good people over there doing great work and trying to fight for democracy and things like that. The biggest thing I always want to say is just support independent media. It's a lot of regular people trying to do this and get the truth out and fight for democracy because we love this country. And yeah, just support independent media. I really appreciate you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad we have been able to have you on. Um, but yeah, definitely support independent media, support Evan, support Lincoln Square. Free subs are always the most important initial piece for us because that's how you stay in the loop. That's where we get email lists built out, and in a time where we can download email lists off of Substack, it's really good because then we can stay in contact with y'all if something happens to this platform. So go subscribe to Evan. Thank you for joining us, my friend. It's been really awesome to have you with us. This is not the first time we've talked, and I'm glad, and I hope it will, and I definitely know it won't be the last time either.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys.
Let me find our, I don't even, oh no, I don't have a QR code for Centered America yet. Wow, that's, sorry guys. Give me one
Don't even
sec.
worry.
Shame.
I'm
Shame.
gonna uh and so Shared, can you
Yeah.
also do for yourself while I get a QR code here put up on the screen. Ooh, look at that. Fast. I'm
Yeah.
getting better. Getting better at this.
So, yeah, you can find us, Centered America, at centeredamerica.substack.com. You can find us on the app, on Instagram, on TikTok. Everything should be Centered America. We also have a website called centeredamerica.org. You look that up, and we have tons of information, how you can volunteer. We also post independent journalism, so we report on the news every single day and make sure that you guys have independent media reporting as quick as possible. And we're verified. We make sure we keep their sources very tight. And yeah, so yeah, find us at Centered America. You can become a free or paid sub. All of it helps.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Sharon. It's been wonderful to have you back this week. Missed Gavin and look forward to seeing him next week. Let's
Yeah.
do our real quick lightning round here. For our side is I'm going to put up Melissa Corrigan. She is an amazing contributor and friend. This is her person. This is her Substack. You can find her at Counterstory Media, Banner and Backbone. Does She Shut Up? Um, she does a rage rag. She does a lot of really incredible news and local reporting and national reporting at this point. Please support Melissa's work, free subs and paid subs for her. She's amazing. She's the reason I've been able to find so many people in this community as I popped on a live where she was, and that sort of led to me meeting everybody else. So she's a great starting point for everyone. Please do support her work. Move over real quick to me. Sick of the Shit Publications is my main home. You all know me there. I do poetry and lots of rage at the political system, raging at the machine, but I also focus on chronic illness issues a lot. So if you're in the disability community and you have chronic illness and issues, please come on over. I love having y'all. I'm trying to build a really good space for everybody to come on and be part of it. And then finally, Banner and Backbone itself, please come support the network. As we build out, the bigger we get, the more attention we can get for mutual aid, for support. The longer we can stay on the air, the more we can do, the better quality we can add to productions, but also the more we can give back. And the more we can do things like support Melissa Corrigan's reporting into what's going on in Norfolk, Virginia, and the creation of the surveillance state, and pieces like that. So please support Banner and Backbone, Centered America, Evan Fields at News for Underground, and Lincoln Square, plus all of us ourselves. And if you can, we're one away on Banner and Backbone from getting to 100 paid subscribers. Please become a paid subscriber with Banner and Backbone. Help us get that bestseller check mark. That is a big algorithm boost for the network, and also lends us a lot of credibility, and the ability to support all of our contributors by allowing everyone on our network to be at least bestsellers if they are not already themselves on their personal networks. And it really helps us build Banner and Backbone itself, plus builds the community that you are all becoming a part of. So last and final thing is thank you everyone for coming. Appreciate everyone in the audience across all of our channels that we've got open today. We have quite a few people. It's at least 300, almost 400 people, I think, if not more, between all of our channels. Thank you for showing up and showing your support. And we will see y'all next week for another centered centering the discussion in America with Banner and Backbone, Centered America, and hopefully Evan Fields if he's able to make it. And so look forward to seeing y'all. Thanks everyone for joining us, and stay safe. As Fred Pogue would say, keep faith and defend democracy. And we're going to do that here. So get loud, be proud, guys. Thanks, everyone.